श्रीयाद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणम् परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। हरे कृष्ण। Today we will begin the discussion on the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Today we will dive into the first section of the 7th chapter, chapters 7 to 12. The Lord explains about now the Lord is going to explain about the science of Bhakti in the chapter 7 to 12. So Bhagavad Gita is like a sandwich in which 7 to 12 is the inner part, which is the cheese part, and uh, and the other two are the loaves which are supporting this cheese. So chapter 1 to 6 and 7 to 12. So 7 to 12 is the cheese, is the essence. And among the 7 to 12 also, chapters 9 and 10 are the essence. And among that also 10.8 to 11 are the essence. So that's how Bhagavad Gita is constituted very beautifully. So now we are entering the middle rungs or the inner rungs of the revelations of the Supreme Lord as we are entering chapter 7. In chapter 7, takes text 1 to 12, the Lord is giving the knowledge about him. So the Lord is revealing the knowledge about him. Uh, uh, how to understand or the revelation about Krishna's relationship with the entire universe. How the Supreme Lord is the source of everything. The Supreme Lord pervades and permeates everything in this universe. So this knowledge of this full knowledge of the full spectrum vibhuti of the Supreme Lord, we will find in 7.1 to 7.12. So this knowledge invokes Sharanagati, and therefore the next section the Lord talks about Sharanagati. So chapters text 13 to 25, the Lord talks about Sharanagati. So when one has this knowledge which is given in 7.1 to 12, then the full spectrum knowledge of Krishna, that invokes or that gives us the inspiration, becomes the fuel for taking shelter of the Lord, which means Sharanagati. And when one does that, for taking shelter of the Lord is Sharanagati, and when one does that, uh, uh, then what Falashruti one gets, or what is the result of that, that is explained then in the last section, which is text 26 to 30 in Bhagavad Gita. So today we will touch upon the first section, which is the full spectrum knowledge revealed by Lord Krishna. let's try to uh, so let's try to go into the first section. Chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Mana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashri Samshayam Samagram Yatha Nasyasi Tat Shrunu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Purport? In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as the non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to the self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahmajyotir or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge of Krishna and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is the ultimate knowledge beyond all doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahmajyotir and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Ravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tachrunu, hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shinvatam Sukatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suhrit satam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भगति भवति नैष्ठिकी तदा रजोतमो रजस्तमो भाव कामलोभादयश्च ये चेत एतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गात्यजाय विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यते सर्वसंशयः क्षीयन्ते चस्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. To hear about Krishna from the Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly to the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamshayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. O son of Pratha, now hear, O son of Pratha, how, by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubts. In this verse, the Lord clearly points out that the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not academic and acquired knowledge. This knowledge is not uh, uh, informative knowledge. This is installed knowledge. And this process of installation is brought about by by the revelation, which is in effect owing to the supreme mercy of the Supreme. So therefore, knowledge the Lord is revealing here is proportional to the attachments. The Lord is telling, just here how I permeate. And the Lord is telling, uh, how I pervade the entire universe, the spiritual and the material worlds. Just hear about the process of yoga. And when you practice it with mind full attached to me, with mind full attached to me, then you will come to me, then you will know me, you will come to me in full. So to the degree the mind is attached to Krishna, while being engaged in the practices of Krishna consciousness, to that degree the Supreme Lord is manifest, to that degree the Supreme Lord reveals to us. So the Lord's revelation is brought about by two factors: engagement of the body, mind, words, and attachment of the mind. The Lord is speaking about that. So the engagement and attachment. So intense engagement leads to attachments. Uh, and that happens, then one can know Krishna in full. And that ensures that one will go towards Krishna. So now, very interestingly, the engagement in devotional service, how to be fully engaged in devotional service, and then how to make one's mind attached to Krishna. These are two beautiful aspects which come about. So the Lord is explaining now how to be, what is devotional service and how to be engaged in devotional service. We can understand that by the process of hearing. When we hear about Krishna, we hear about the devotees of the Lord performing devotional service. We get clarity on what is devotional service, what it means to please Krishna, how we can please Krishna. So we get understanding about that. That's the first thing. And the second point, so that's the first thing. Now, very beautifully, the principle is what? That the same hearing of Krishna Katha brings about attachment of mind also to Krishna. So the hearing Krishna Katha not only leads to uh, the prakate of the knowledge about Krishna and the knowledge about the devotional service. Because the knowledge dawns, all three will dawn. When knowledge dawns, then all three will become manifest at the same time. Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana. All three will become manifest at the same time. Because as soon as Sambandha is established, Abhidaya is practiced. And Abhidaya is practiced toward the direction of Prayojana. So all three manifest progressively uh, in a sadhaka's heart. Uh, but whenever they manifest, all three manifest, because then only it becomes a proper journey of the sadhaka, the transcendental journey. So this is knowledge. The knowledge manifests in terms of the progressive manifestation of the set of all three, Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. And now, the same hearing brings about attachment. Or more completely, we can say that hearing coupled with active engagement in Krishna consciousness leads to increase of the attachment to the Supreme Lord. So in fact, the Lord is, as Srila Prabhupada very rightly explains that, in the 7th chapter, the Lord is explaining the process of Krishna consciousness in full. And we can see right from 7.1 that revelation is being offered to us. So if you see the verse, uh, So the Lord is explaining that so if we see the sequence as is being followed, as the verse flows, the Lord is first revealing, okay, Maya Asakta Manapartha. He said, the Lord is saying, Maya Asakta Manapartha. How this Maya Asakta Manapartha is going to happen? This will happen only when one is self-realized, yogam, self-realization. So, and this will happen only when yogam yunjan, one is practicing the process of self-realization. Then only the Maya Asakta Manapartha will happen. And not just practicing the process of self-realization, but Mad Ashraya. Practicing along with uh, the heart or the feelings to take shelter of me. That means we are now feelingly practicing with full consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness, Mad Ashraya, with the heart, with the feelings to take shelter of me, Sharanagati. So when that happens, in the third line the Lord explains, then what is immediately going to happen? Asamshaya. Immediately what is going to happen? One will be freed of all doubts. Asamshaya. Yeah, Samagram is completely freed of all doubts. Na, about me. Asamshayam Samagram. And then it says, Yatha Gnasasi Tachshunu. Yatha Gnasasi. So, how you can know about me, knowledge, that I am going to give you. That knowledge which I am going to give you. Yatha Gnasasi Tachshunu. So that means that the sequence of how things, the progress of Krishna consciousness, of the progress of the flow of Krishna consciousness takes place, is mentioned in this verse. That when we hear about Krishna, Tachshunu, then what happens is that Yatha Gnasyasi, we get knowledge about Krishna. Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojan, all are manifest by this knowledge. So when all of these are manifest properly and sufficiently, then immediately what is going to happen? The next step is Asamshayam. You'll be freed from all doubts. Asamshayam Samagram. So freed from all doubts, one will be able to completely understand the process of Krishna consciousness. And then, and then one practices enthusiastically Yogam Yunjan. So taking shelter of Krishna, Mad Ashri. So when one is freed of all doubts, then one takes full shelter of Krishna. So that so by taking that full shelter of Krishna, one's yoga practice becomes very steady. Yogam Yunjan, very steady practice. No wavering, no sinusoids. And when that happens, then that leads to Mai Asakta Mana. So from Tachshunu, there is Gnasasi. When Gnasasi is there, then there is Samshaya, freedom from doubt, Samagrama. One will understand Krishna very nicely. So that leads to the feeling of taking shelter, depending on the Supreme Lord or Sharanagati. And by that, what will happen is that stabilize the Yogam Yunjan, the yoga, the steady yoga practice. And that is what leads to Asakta Manaha. So, that is what will lead to Asakta Manaha. Srila Prabhupada explains there is only one path back to God. Love of God, the objective of the development of love of God is only one path back to Godhead. There are no multiple paths. There is no multiplicity in terms of path. There are gradations within the same path, but there is no multiplicity of paths. So that is why Srila Prabhupada was explaining that all these various yoga processes are all different stages in the same path back to Godhead. the same path of Krishna consciousness. What is that path? Can we describe that path succinctly? Is there any one statement which can describe this path completely? That is 7.1. What is this path? Maya sakta manah partha bhugam yunyan madashraya samshayam smagram yatagnasasi tachshano. So if you want to explain that what is this whole and soul path, this path is the Lord is. It starts with tachshano. Hear about Krishna. Hearing about Krishna. So this is the entire path. Different types of yoga processes may take us to different destinations in this path. But the path remains one and the same. And a succinct, the path remains one and the same succinct. So this is very beautiful. The Lord is telling hearing leads to knowledge. Knowledge leads to attraction, attachment. That stabilizes our practice. Now, the very interesting point to note is that you see, this is how Krishna consciousness works. Simply by hearing that. So, very interestingly, practice leading to attachment to Krishna. So simply by practicing, the attachment to Krishna increases. That is only so they say no, practice makes a man perfect. There is a saying, but there is a prerequisite in that. Practice makes a person perfect only if the person has some potentiality. That's a prerequisite. Like say somebody is mentally retarded, practice makes a man perfect will not be applicable. No matter how much that person practices, he may not become perfect. If such a person is compared to people having normal and uh, bright intelligence, right? So then such a person practice makes a man perfect will not be applicable. Cannot work for such a person. Why? Because potentiality is lacking. So practice makes a man perfect is only applicable when the person is having some potentiality. Like there are some devotees, musical intelligence is not much, is not there to the needed level. So then such devotees find a great difficulty in trying to play kartal or mridangam. They may practice for hundreds of hours, but if that sense is not installed. So I remember my teachers when they taught me, then I was asking, Guruji, you are teaching 1, 2, 3 is kartal, but when 1 should come and 1, 3 should be beaten, what is the point? He said, you just feel the vibrations, you will get a sense of it. I said, hey, this is not teaching, this is, so basically, that sense, if it is not there, then it doesn't work out. I have seen sometimes devotees very, struggling for hours and hours, but not being able to make it. So, okay, those who are able to make it, nothing great about them, but we have to be very grateful that Krishna is installed that intelligence. So, like that. So, person can only learn if potentiality is there. Without potentiality, there is no question of learning. Like that. So now when now we can understand. So that is the point. So just like if we say, okay, the till the land, water the land, the tree will come. The tree will only come if the seed is there inside. The cultivation, fencing, watering is not removing of weeds will not work if there is no seed. Suppose we remove the weeds, we make the fence, there is no seed on the inside. You keep watering throughout life, nothing will come out. So the seed has to be there. The potentiality has to be there. The potential is there, then the cultivation makes sense. Like that. So the potentiality is there, the cultivation makes sense. No? Now, this is the very beautiful principle which the Lord is explaining. Like that. Potentiality is there, cultivation makes sense. Because the cultivation lead to manifestation of bhakti. So therefore, now Lord is making, that means the Lord is making a very powerful declaration. What the Lord is telling, just here, practice. Nasyasi, knowledge will develop, doubts will be cleared, attachment will develop, and you can take complete shelter. So this means that the Lord is revealing to us that the Jiva soul inherently comes with an installed potentiality for bhakti. So the potentiality is there, and that is why practice is working, because the potentiality is there. This one dimensional understanding, there is a second dimension of understanding also. The first dimension of understanding is Lord has already pre-installed that potency. Every living entity, every human being comes with that potentiality. That's why Tachrunu, Yogam Yunyan, and Madasakti. That practice has to lead. Knowledge leads to practice, practice leads to attachment. So, because the Lord very mercifully has installed this potentiality within every human being. Potentiality is there. Now, the second dimensional understanding is okay, in the just like there is primary creation, secondary creation. So Krishna likes to facilitate, but Krishna likes to facilitate the growth of the living entity. So therefore, Krishna is doing the primary creation, Sarga, and then the Lord is facilitating his servants to do something, some service for him. Then the Lord is leaving some small areas, and then that is Visarga, secondary creation. Similarly, the Lord facilitates the Jiva, and the Lord facilitates the growth of the Jiva also. So the first dimension is facilitate the Jiva. The Lord has installed that potentiality. We just practice, the awakening takes place. Second is the Lord facilitates the growth of the Jiva also, which means that we can even make it. Now the Lord is installed and practice of yoga is working, but there is something, some role of the jiva also, which the Lord has granted. Now, what is that role? So now the point is, to the degree there is the feeling of Sharanagati, the feeling of taking shelter of Krishna, which we are describing by the words, to the degree there is consciousness of Krishna. One is conscious of Krishna. To that degree, this potentiality is manifest. And to that degree, to an equivalent degree, the attachment to Krishna increases. Lord has given originally the potency, but now the point is that potency is manifest to the degree so there is a jiva's role. But okay, how sincerely one wants to take the shelter? What is one's attitude in embarking or while embarking upon these activities of Krishna consciousness? And that attitude is what matters. So there is a living entity's homework and role. So this is the supreme mercy of the Lord. The Lord gives a chunk installment of mercy, and then the Lord also keeps some space reserved for the jiva, a little bit struggle, and in that way intensify his or her attachment to Krishna. while receiving. Yeah, the attitude is to take shelter of Krishna. So in the attitude is to take shelter of Krishna. Taking shelter means giving utmost importance to the words of Krishna. Uh, Accepting and applying those instructions of Krishna under any circumstance. That means taking shelter of Krishna. Giving utmost priority, accepting, applying. Yes. Those they are venues of Krishna will not hear only Krishna more. If someone is hearing and continuing to hear means such a devotee has opened up his heart to accept the message of Krishna. So therefore, Krishna conscious works. One who is envious of Krishna will not be able to tolerate hearing for about Krishna for long. So therefore, hearing is a process of cultivation. Hearing is not a one-time act. It is a process of cultivation. There is the uh, uh, it's a process of cultivation. And when we say hearing, the aspect of association is uh, embedded in it. Because and that is why Srila Prabhupada is explaining that great fortune and mercy dawns in a person's life when one gets to opportunity to understand and to hear the message of Krishna. And then Prabhupada is saying that this message of Krishna can be heard only by Krishna himself or through his devotees and pure representatives. His devotees and representatives. That is in the Parampara system. So we can only understand Krishna we hear through the Parampara. And that is the fortune. And if we get an opportunity towards that objective or towards that end, that becomes the turning point which can change one's destiny, provided one takes it seriously. Mm. So hearing has to be uh, 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 so hearing has to be with an attitude of taking shelter, submissive, prayerful hearing, serious hearing. Careful, serious hearing. That is how the process of hearing should work. Yes. So if you hear the broad heart, the submissive prayerful heart, then those words will create a lot of impact in our lives. And so those words are very potent, and if they are taken it in the right spirit, they can create a marvelous impact. So, so in 7.1 also the Lord is talking about the spirit. What should be the spirit of Gita? The Lord explains here. Uh, uh, the Lord explains multiple verses. What should be the spirit to the orientation to practice bhakti, to to approach Gita. This is one of the verses. Another verse is uh, Shraddhavante Anusuyante. The Lord is explaining that Arjuna, I am revealing this knowledge to you because you have faith in me and you are not envious. Shraddhavante Anusuyante. Let's read the next verse. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyami sheshatah yatnatva neha bhuyonyat jnanatavyam avashishyate. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the fourth chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can only be achieved by the devotee with disciplic succession directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the sources of all knowledge. One should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes. And the only object for meditation in all of yoga practice. When the cause of all causes becomes known, then everything knowable becomes known and nothing remains unknown. The Vedas, the Mundaka Upanishad says, Tasmenu Bhagavu Vidnate Sarvamidam Vidnatam Bhavanti. Nothing further shall remain to be known. Aha. The Lord is explaining two things. So reality is there are two aspects to reality which are being described as Jnanam, Vijnanam. Jnanam, Vijnanam. Phenomenal and nominal. So Jnanam means what we understand. Phenomenal. Things as we perceive. That's called as phenomenal reality. And nominal means things as they are. So what we perceive may be drastically different from what things actually are. Because our perception is tainted. So Numinal. So this beautiful concept is explained by the Supreme Lord, that the so the things as we perceive, uh, and the things as they. So therefore, the territory of jnana covers theoretical knowledge. So the territory of vijnana covers practical knowledge. Jnana is theoretical knowledge, vijnana is realization. So, so therefore, the point to note here is that only when we know the nominal, the vijnana, then we can only come to know how faulty our jnana was. Jnana is theoretical, it's faulty. Uh, but only when we know vijnana, then we can understand how faulty the jnana was. So rather what we are doing is that we try to tune the jnana with the vijnana. If one only keeps lurking around in perceptions and keeps traversing around perception, the subject matter of the perceptual journey or the perceptual run may be spiritual, but if one simply keeps roaming around in perception, then one will never be able to come out of illusion, because perception is the phenomenal reality. And the only way out of getting out of this perceptual plane and this game of perceptions is to get Vigyan. Yes, yes, that is also true. Yes. So Vigyan. Uh, so we need to, so as long as one is hovering around in the perceptual plane, there is no end to that plane. There is no escape from that plane. So one is still in the material plane. So similarly, therefore, we will see that the Vigyan is essential. And we get Vigyan. So therefore, simply dry Jnana, we will see what to say of making one advance spiritually. It may increase, it stands a risk to increase and puff up one's false ego. Simply dry Jnana will act towards increasing one's false ego. But Vijnana is applied realization. So Vijnana is caught by Tad Vidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshan Thite Jnanam Jnanina Sattvadarshana. That is how Vijnana is caught. So Gyan is taught and Vijnana is caught. Nothing can be bought. To make us qualified, we have to serve a lot. So this is the point. Nothing can be bought. Make us qualified to serve a lot. So Jnana is taught, Vijnana is caught. That is how the machinery, transcendental machinery works. So this is Lord's mercy on us. So now we say, okay, just so hearing is important. So see, this is what happens when there say so hearing is important. Just like a person comes in close vicinity of a devotee, you know, then what happens is that because the presence of the devotee, there is mercy being radiated, transcendental vibrations being radiated. So because a devotee will always speak about Krishna, some Krishna Katha being radiated. So that is like a commodity. So now if one has gone nearer to a devotee, he will stand a great chance to happen to hear some Krishna Katha like that. So he has been able to catch something, some transcendental knowledge, uh, which is like a raw vegetable. So if one catches something, one doesn't know what it is. There's no knowledge of what it is. When we catch it, later throw it. Like Durvasa Muni gave his garland to Maharaj Indra. He is knowledgeable, but at that time he forgot. So he caught it. No, knowledge is caught. He caught it. But no, so he caught that figment of knowledge, but there was no knowledge back up inside. And because of which he could not value what he had caught. So he gave it to Gajendra, Airavat. He says, okay, this is something for you. And Airavat was very excited, he was playing with it. So he also caught it, the mercy, but not knowing. So unless there is so unless there is a pre-installed knowledge, any further knowledge will not be processed. One will not be able to value. Caught it and lose it. So Indra lost it. Airavat lost it. Airavat is a poor animal. What can be done? And but Maharaj Indra lost the opportunity. So the transcendental knowledge can be caught. That is there, but that's like raw vegetable. Like that needs to be processed. That needs to be processed. So the processing happens when one has that tadviddhi pranipatana, that proclivity of serving the spiritual master. When that proclivity is there, then the words of spiritual master will be taken with great seriousness. So when that proclivity is there to serve, no, then it is processed. Tadviddhi pranipatina is the way how that knowledge, that hearing is processed. Just like a raw medicine, one can make into a raw vegetable, one can cook and prepare a nice ripe vegetable cuisine. This is the point which is being explained here. Yes. Hmm. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Jnana refers to Aishwarya feature of the Lord. Vijnana refers to Madhurya feature of the Lord. So the greatness of Krishna, the sweetness of Krishna. So yes, to experience or to know the sweetness of a person, one has to develop that thick relationship with Krishna, which doesn't come without service. So that's how it relates. That's how it relates. And that is why the Lord explained Jnanam, Vijnanam. After that Vijnana is installed, nothing else remains to be known. So the processing. People of this world think that the processing, any particular thing, the processing can only happen when we think about it, we meditate, we churn it, we muse it over. So that's what people think. No? So just like a researcher reads a research paper, and then this fellow is thinking, okay, this is done, this is not done. What can I do? He's churning. He gets an idea. He gets a way how he can use this particular paper and some aspects of that to add on to his. So he reads 100 papers. He gets ideas by churning. So he makes his own paper direction experimentation very clear, and then he does it, publishes a new paper research. So people think that okay, if I take it, if I churn it, if I think about it and all that, it is sufficient. It is not sufficient for spiritual knowledge. So many times um, the churning is not sufficient. Churning has to be accompanied along with active service. That's a component which we have to add in spiritual knowledge, and therefore it is the so the transcendental knowledge in that way is compared to the seed. And when one is having the heart full of service attitude, and that is like the fertile ground. Service attitude means more the service attitude, more the fertility. So the fertile ground is there, then one can then the seed germinates. So therefore that knowledge gets installed. So therefore it is complete. Uh, so this knowledge which is given is complete knowledge, because this knowledge sets the momentum which can take us to completeness. So in that sense, we will see Bhagavad Gita talks about the Lord's identity. We are understanding the Lord's identity. Bhagavatam talks about the Lord's activities. So who is God? Bhagavad Gita teaches. What he does, Bhagavatam is teaching. And Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about the Lord's mentality. What is the Lord's mind? That's his talking. The Lord's heart, the Lord's mentality. That's his talking. So that is progressively greater and greater sanidhita of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita, we understand the Lord's identity. Let's read further. Manushyanam sahasreshu kashin yatati siddhaye yatatam siddhanam kashin mam veti tat. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge. In understanding the self, the super self, the process of realization by jnana, yoga, dhyana yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is a supreme person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. Yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempt to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of the impersonal being. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy. But when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Shruti Smriti Puranadi पंचरात्र विधिन्विन ऐकांतिकी हरेर भक्ति उत्पाते कल्पते. Devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in the society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the greatest demigods, the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muhyanti yat suryaya. Man tu vedana kasyana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And one who does know him, then sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is. Tatvataha, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher, only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna. His being the cause of all causes. Yeah. His omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, Ataha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriya sevonmukhe hi jihivado swayameva surati adaha. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses. He reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. The Lord is explaining here about the rarity of spiritual life. The Mahatma Sudurla. So the point is, bhakti is process of bhakti is like uh, you see the point is the process of bhakti is the process of bhakti is very much like um, um, you see it's very much like say in archery or in shooting. Uh, to shoot and hit the board is easy, but to hit closer and closer to the bullseye, that point, is progressively more and more difficult. So, in the same way, the Lord is explaining to get a person to shoot an arrow or a bullet. That is very rare. And Prabhupada is saying that okay, if so that is analogous to having an interest in spiritual life. Now Prabhupada is telling that okay, the for those so one is interested in spiritual life, then Bhagavad chapter 1 to 6 are explaining and fanning that interest. They're explaining about Jiva Tattva, Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, the different types of yoga systems. So that interest is being fanned by the Supreme Lord. So for those who are transcendentalists, now such people will be able to shoot at the board. Now there are so many lines around that bullseye, and they have points. The more farther, the some point is there. So Brahman Paramatma is the farthest end. Brahman is the farthest end. From that point to bullseye is an earth and sky of a journey. So it's a very big board actually. Yeah? And the Lord has added demigods. The board has become even bigger. So bhakti itself is a big board. After that, the Lord has added other yoga systems, Jnana Yoga, Dhyan Yoga. So the board is even more bigger. Then the Lord has added a demigod worship. The board is very, very big actually. So, so to shoot, it's easy. Therefore, we see every Indian makes a shoot, makes a shot. Anybody may say, "Oh, Krishna, Krishna, Jai Jagannath, Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe." Anybody can say, Jai Shri Ram. Just like shooting. So just like shooting. So anybody can shoot. But they're shooting, the bullet is being shot, and so it's not bullet being shot is not the point. Where it is hit, that is the point. How far from the bullseye? What is the bullseye? Your devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi navritam alukondena krishna anushilana bhakti uttama. That is the bullseye. So where the bullet is shot, it's a very big board actually. So Lord is merciful, Lord has made the board very big. So somewhere though it will go. So to be so therefore we can say that to get an admission in the school of bhakti is very easy. No, that's the point. But to be awarded the degree of Krishna Prem, not easy. Many people will go with the degree of moralist. They'll be getting the pass out degree, is a bachelor of morality. You know? like that. Yeah, Bachelor of Piety. There are the degrees are there. Like that. So, one who does not take admission, he also passes out with another degree. Prabhupada talk about non-devotees, what degree they pass out with. He passes out a degree of Bachelor of Anxiety. You know. Yeah. So these are degrees: Bachelor of Anxiety, Bachelor of Piety, Bachelor of Morality, like that. Uh, so innermost is Krishna Prem. Hmm. Yeah, innermost is Krishna Prem. He's saying Bachelor of Ecstasy. Uh, so so the degree has to be given. That is the point. Therefore, nobody can assume that one is ecstatic. Many people they start assuming and imagining that I am in ecstasy. I am having Radha Bhav, Krishna Bhav. No, degree is required. No. So the now whether we are ecstatic or not, that is not decided by us. No, whether we are static or we are ecstatic, you know, uh, that is not decided by us. No, whether the student knows or not, student is pass or fail, that is decided by the teacher, not the student. Is it not? So similarly, whether we are static or we are ecstatic is decided by the Guru Shishya Parampara, not by us. So therefore, somebody is saying, no, I am very knowledgeable. No, that doesn't, no, that has no meaning. Somebody may say, I have a lot of knowledge of medical science. You say, अरे MBBS कहाँ से की? Degree very important. वैसे से नहीं वो तो सब बाह्य है, मैं अंदर की चीज बताता हूँ, है ना? तो आप अंदर का चीज अंदर ही रखो, है ना? Is it not? That is the point. So the Bhakti school offers different degrees to yeah. So there is a second difference between Bhakti school and material school. Material school you have different branches which are completely separate, like that. Like if somebody is computer science, he cannot be BTech in computer science and biology. Biology student, geology student separate, computer science separate. So no intersection. If one has to get another degree, then one has to add extra work, extra load, extra subjects. 2 degrees, extra time, like that. But that is very difficult. Very few people do it. So Bhakti school, what is there? All the departments have the same cohort. Depending on the gradation or the elevation of the consciousness of the student, is given awarded a degree accordingly. Jnani, yogi, uh, yeah, bachelor of dry speculative knowledge, like that. Bachelor of transcendental gymnastics, yogi, like, yeah. So corresponding materialistic degree will be bachelor of exploitation. So people like that. So this so therefore we have to understand that this is gradation. So the branches are not separate, they are gradations in the same path. Therefore different students in the school of yoga will get different degrees. First of all, so therefore this is like the big archery board. But one really has to go to the bullseye, hit the bullseye, not just once, all the time. So whenever we're chanting Hare Krishna, we are hitting, we are shooting, But our Hare Krishna does not go to the bullseye, it goes somewhere, like that. So because the practice, So one practices going near the bullseye, then so that is very difficult, and uh, therefore coaching is required. Therefore coaching is required. So, so just like every athlete or every athlete has a person coach who are monitoring their day-to-day activities and guiding like that. Similarly, Bhakti requires a coach. Without coach, impossible to perform. One can be. So what is easy? Admission in the school of Bhakti. Bachelor of anxiety, very easy. Very, very easy. This degree is very easily awarded in this material world today. Bachelor of anxiety. Anybody has sufficient subject matter to be anxious about. It's about tension in life. Everybody has a lot of tension. So, like that. The what they are tensed about may differ, but everybody is tensed about. That's the point. So, Bachelor of Anxiety degree is very the most commonly awarded degree. Like that. So, to be able to be interested in spiritual life, to get Bachelor of Piety, that itself is rare. The 46. Therefore, revelation is required, and revelation is only possible if apprenticeship is required, and that's what outside the board. Yeah, Bachelor of Anxiety is outside the board. The board starts with Bachelor of Piety. You know, uh, Bachelor of Piety is what? Agyat Sukriti. Agyat Sukriti. That means one has caught it, but one doesn't understand what to do with it. We just kept it. So just caught it. Like you get a nice food, but you just keep it on the desk. You're not eating it you're not taking benefit of it. Like that. It's caught, not installed. So that is why the Lord is inspiring Arjuna to very, very wholeheartedly follow. The Lord is telling, otherwise he won't be able to hit the bullseye. You want the bullseye? Follow. Here very seriously, follow very seriously. Yeah, it's easy to hit the bull. So following the process of spirituality or adding superficial spirituality is very easy. Uh, Everyone can offer some agarbatti to the Lord. 2 minutes a day. That's very easy. Anyone can chant one Mahamantra per day, 10 Mahamantras a day. Very easy. So we also chant Hare Krishna. Oh, very nice. How much? 16. Oh, 16. Wonderful, Prabhu. Humble obeisances. So let us chant. You know? So the devotee was inviting poor fellow chanting 2 hours. The other person 5 minutes done. So he's chanting 16 mantras, not 16 rounds. Like that. So मेरापनो वायु कम मनोबुद्धिरेव च अहंकार में भिन्न प्रकृति रचना. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these eight constitute my separated material energies. Purpose. The science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. Material nature is Prakriti, or the energy of the Lord in his different Purusha incarnations, expansions, as described in the Narad Pancharatra, one of the Satvata Tantras. Vishnu Srutani Rupani Purushakyani Ato Vidu Ekam Tu Mahata Shastri Titiyam Tav Anda Samsitam Titiyam Sarvabhutastham Tani Gnatva Me Mukshate. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes three Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy called the Mahatattva. The second, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in them. The third, the Shirodakshaya Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma. He is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these three Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. This material world is a temporary manifestation of one of the energies of the Lord. All the activities of the material world are directed by these three Vishnu expansions of Lord Krishna. These Purushas are called incarnations. Generally, one who does not know the science of God, Krishna, assumes that this material world is for the enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the Purushas, the causes, the controllers, and the enjoyers of material energy. According to Bhagavad Gita, this atheistic conclusion is false. In this verse under discussion, it is stated that Krishna is the original cause of the material manifestation. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms this. The ingredients of the material manifestation are separated energies of the Supreme Lord. Even the Brahmajyoti, which is the ultimate goal of the impersonalist, is a spiritual energy manifested in the spiritual sky. There are no spiritual diversities in the Brahmajyoti as there are in Vaikuntha Lokas. And the impersonalist accepts this Brahmajyotis as the ultimate eternal goal. Paramatma manifestation is also a temporary, all-pervasive aspect of the Shirodakshaya Vishnu. The Paramatma manifestation is not eternal in the spiritual world. Therefore, the factual absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is a complete energetic person and he possesses different separated and internal energies. In the material energy, the principal manifestation are 8, as above mentioned. Out of these, the first 5 manifestations, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, and sky, are called the 5 gigantic creations or the gross creations, within which the 5 sense objects are included. They are the manifestations of physical sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Material science comprises these 10 items and nothing more. But the other items, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego, are neglected by the materialists. Philosophers who deal with mental activities are also not perfect in knowledge because they do not know the ultimate source, Krishna. The false ego, I am, it is mine, which constitute the basic principle of material existence, includes the 10 sense organs for material activities. Intelligence refers to the total material creation called Mahatattva. Therefore, from the 8 separated energies of the Lord are manifest 24 elements of the material world, which are the subject matter of Sankhya atheistic philosophy. They are originally offshoots from Krishna's energies and are separated from him. But atheistic Sankhya philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge do not know Krishna as the cause of all causes. The subject matter of discussion in the Sankhya philosophy is only the manifestation of the external energy of Krishna, as it is described in Bhagavad Gita. अपरेयमयुतस्तवन्यं प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परं जीवभूतां महाबाहो येदं धार्यते जगत्. Now the Lord is saying, besides these, O mighty Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So if you see, now the Lord is explaining, now the Lord has told that, okay, there is rarity of reaching out to me. Now the Lord in one sense is explaining how it is so rare. If everything is coming from Krishna, how to reach out to him is so rare. The Lord is giving a reason here. Yeah, so the Lord is giving a reason here that why everything is so rare. Because the Lord is explaining that everything what we know of as the Pancha Mahabhut and the mind, intelligence, false ego, they are all my separated energies. And added to that is the point that the Jiva is my greater energy, Aparayam. The Jiva is separate from all of these. These are fully separated. The Jiva can connect to me. The Jiva has the potentiality. But this Jiva is Yayedam Dharita Jagat. He is fluffing up and trying to exploit this material energy, and he is getting overwhelmed. So, this is a very beautiful aspect the Lord is explaining. So, why Krishna Kant is very rare? Because most of the people simply get caught up in the material energy, and in the roads of the material energy, the roads do not go to Krishna because they are separated energies. But the Lord is not putting the Jiva in this category of eternally separated. The Lord is saying Jiva is also individual. Jiva is also separate. But the Jiva can connect to him. That's what the Lord is explaining here. The Jiva can connect to me. And that's what the Lord is saying, Aparayam. Because the Lord is expecting the Jiva not to be lost. You see this verse, the Lord is explaining his heart that I don't expect the Jiva to fail. The Jiva is failing. He's simply the Yayadam Dharate Jagat. So the Lord is expecting the Jiva to take it up. To take up this the spiritual energy. And to take shelter of him in that way. Let's read the purpose. Here it is clearly mentioned that the living entities belong to the superior nature or the energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements. Both forms of mental nature, gross and subtle, are products of inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, therefore, the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. So, they are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entity and the Lord is described in Bhagavatam 10:87-30. अपरिमित ध्रुवास तनुभृतो यदि सर्वगतास तर्हि न शस्यतेति नियमो ध्रुवा नेत्रमतः अजानि च यन्मयम् तदविमुच्य नियन्तर्भवेत् समाम् अनुजनातं यद् अमतां मतः दुष्टतया. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities are eternal and all pervading like you, then why they would not be under your control? But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory of God and the living entities, the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects, are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all the living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme. But they are never equal to the Lord in quantity or power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, the superior energy forgets its real spiritual mind and intelligence. So, this forgetfulness is due to the influence of the matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage of mukti or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks I am matter and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized, and when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multiple energies of the God, Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna consciousness or liberated. So therefore the Lord is explaining in 7.6 now, Etad yonini bhutani sarva niti upadharaya aham krishnasya jagata prabhava pralayastat. All these created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Purport? Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation and matter is created by the spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because that spiritual energy, spirit soul is present. Similarly, entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the super soul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord. And consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big skyscraper, a big factory, or a big city, but he cannot be the cause of a big universe. The cause of a big universe is the big soul or the super soul. And Krishna the Supreme is the cause of both big and small. So therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. Nitya Nityanam Chidanam. So here we can clearly see the Lord is explaining this process of bhakti is very rare. Why it is very rare? Because most of the living entities are yayedam dharite yagat. They are simply trying to exploit the metal energy. Metal energy is separated from me. Through the metal energy, there is no route to me. So the aphorism Sambhog se Samadhi. Through material energy, Krishna is saying there is no route to me. There is no Samadhi. There is no route to me. It is separated energy. Matter is separated energy. There is no route to me, Krishna is saying. And but the living entity has a potentiality. Aparayam, itastavanya. So the living entity can get overwhelmed by the material energy, but the living entity has a potentiality that they can connect to me. That is saying. Why? Because so the Lord is very, and now what is the proof of this potency? The living entity has more power than matter. That means that the living entity has the power to safeguard itself from the overwhelming effects and impact of matter, the intoxicating impact of matter. Why? Because the Lord explains that the spiritual spark is able to, the entire cosmic material world becomes manifest only when the spirit enters. Any machinery works when the person is there to handle it. The vehicle moves when the person is there to handle. The spiritual energy comes, then the motion. And in the big scale, everything is working because the Lord is Himself present. The Super Soul is present. So this is the Lord is giving a proof that this proves that the spiritual energy is more powerful than material energy, but material energy overpowers. Why? Because the spirit soul is weakened by attachment. The spirit soul has the potentiality to safeguard oneself from the the diseased impact of the material energy. And how? The Lord is giving a hint because I am the controller of both the spiritual and the material. The material energy is spiritual energy. I am the controller. So Krishna is above the Jiva soul. So if the spirit soul takes shelter of Krishna, then he can get the strength to resist Maya. And that is what the Lord is explaining here. Yeah. Okay, there is a question here. In the second verse, Prabhupada writes, everything knowable becomes known. So what comes in everything knowable? Yeah, Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana, all three are manifested. So one simply can go on working in that. There is nothing else which needs to be known. So there is nothing lacking. So everything is known, and as one progresses the path, one is given greater and greater fervor. One is given greater and greater mood, spirit, like that. But what is the Sambandha Abhidaya Projan? Same. So how this process is complete? Like say for example, the chanting is introduced, it's complete. If you go on chanting, the spiritual world is manifest. So chanting is complete, but realization will be progressive of the mercy, the impact, the sweetness of the holy name. The realization will take time, but the chanting is complete. Similarly, uh, similarly, when we say Bhagavad Gita is given to us, everything is given. So we know everything, how to go back to Godhead. But if we read Bhagavatam, we'll get more inspiration of how to go faster. And CC, more inspiration. But Bhagavad Gita is good enough. So that is the point. So that's why complete. Everything is given, and further revelations within these Sambandha Prayojana Abhidaya will come, the kick will come as we keep going forward. So that's how the science is. Let's stop here for today. Sambandha means what is my relationship with Krishna. Avidya means what is the process to reciprocate in that relationship or to awaken that relationship. And Prayojana. Prayojana means when that relationship is awakened, what is what I will get? That love, Krishna Prema. That is Prayojana. What is the ultimate result? I can reciprocate in relationship. What will I get? Will I get money? Will I get US nationality? So that is Prayojana. Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema. Mantrashwan Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll continue forward the first section, second part in our next class. There you go.